As we've seen previously, the Russian offensive has started to lose steam in all sectors except in the sector of WR front, where the First Shock Army is nearing the important city of Rzew. And now it's the Germans' third turn. So we start with the German activation phase. The Germans receive 5 activation points in this turn. Germans didn't have any left from previous turns, so in this turn they have all 5 points to spend now. Now we proceed to the German movement phase. Most critical situation for the Germans is the advance of the First Shock Army. We see to the north of Rzew that the 9th German Army has held the line so far, but it will have to pull back to maintain contact with the 4th Panzer Army and somehow stop the advance of the Soviets in that direction. So the Germans spend their first activation point to activate the 9th Army for movement. The 9th Army, which has held the line so far, will have to pull back to help out in the defense of Rzew, because the 4th Panzer Army has completely failed in that aspect. So these are the positions at the beginning, and these are the positions at the end of movement. Notice that 2 German divisions cannot move. They are practically surrounded and will most probably be lost. But now there is a more solid line in front of Rzew. Next, the 4th Panzer Army needs to move to organize their line. There's some of their units that are exposed to another Russian advance. So the second activation point is used to activate the 4th Panzer Army for movement. As we see here, this strong Soviet unit of the 16th Army is somewhat exposed, so we may see units of the 4th Panzer moving into positions surrounding that unit, and we may even see an attack if there's sufficient activation point markers left after German movement. So these are the positions after movement. The units in this vicinity withdrew to solidify a defensive line here to the north east of Gastsk. And on the other hand, the German units positioned themselves for a 2-to-1 attack on the Soviet 16th Army unit. The Germans have 2 activation points left, and here's the situation in the 4th Army sector. The line appears pretty strong. Not so much in the area around Sukinichi, and the Germans have units nearby that may take advantage of the road bonus to seal any gaps and strengthen the line. So the Germans spend their 3rd activation point to activate the units of the 2nd Panzer Army for movement. To make the defensive line shorter, the units of the 2nd Panzer Army, specifically these units that are behind the river here, will withdraw to form a line in front of Orel. These are the positions before movement, and these are the positions after movement. Let's take a look at the remaining units of the 2nd Panzer Army. This Panzer Division uses 5 movement points to move along the road and take up this position before Spas-Demensk. And these 2 Panzer Grenadier units spend their full movement allowance of 5 to take a position to the west of Kirov. Meanwhile, the 4th Panzer Division is all that is left between the Russian forces and the important city of Bryansk, which is worth 3 victory points for the Russians. So it moves 2 spaces here into this wooded area to serve as a blocking force. Turning our attention to the sector of the 4th Army, we see that there's units of the 4th Army in contact with several Russian units, and there's opportunities for counterattacks here. But the question is, with 2 activation points remaining, if we move, the units of the 4th Army will have only 1 activation point left, and the Germans are really interested in eliminating that strong Russian unit in the sector of the 4th Panzer Army. The Germans will spend their 3rd activation point to activate the 4th Army for movement. Here we see the positions of the 4th Army units before movement, and here are the positions after movement. We've seen that the 4th Army has placed more units in contact with the WL front, even though they will not attack during this turn. They only have 1 activation point left, and that will be used in the combat situation here involving the 4th Panzer Army. So this is the end of the German movement phase. Now to the German combat phase. Germans spend their 4th and last activation point to activate the 4th Panzer Army for combat. And here we see the attack. 5 German units against the strong 16th Army Soviet unit of the WR front. This is a 2-to-1 attack with a +1 because the defenders are isolated. They cannot trace a line of communications back to their supply sources. The result is a 2 modified to a 3 contact. And the units stay where they are, so the Germans fail to eliminate the surrounded 16th Army unit in their only attack during this turn. So we proceed now to the recovery phase. The Germans have various units which are disrupted, including a 2nd Panzer Division from the 4th Panzer Army. In the 9th Army sector, the 206th Infantry Division is flipped to its undisrupted side, and in the northern part of the front, the 32nd Infantry Division also recovers from disruption. This is the end of turn 3. Notice that I have not kept a tally of victory points. As you know, victory points are earned by capturing cities, destroying enemy units, and I've declined to do so to not be so focused on points. But later on, maybe around turns 4 and 5, we will check to see how the victory point situation is going about. The Germans have lost 8 units and the Soviets 2. In the next turn, we'll see the appearance of partisans and perhaps an airborne drop by the Soviets. So stay tuned for the next video, turn number 4, Red Typhoon. This is Stuka Joe signing off for now. Thanks for watching.